Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Darío Domingo, and I'm going to present our work entitled Assessment of Oak Groves Conservation Status in Nature 2000 Special Areas of Conservation with Single Photon LiDAR. One of the main responses to the current biodiversity crisis that we are facing on is the creation of conservation networks. And for example, the Natura 2000 European Conservation Network currently protects more than 14% of the Spanish territory. The European Union member states should monitor the conservation status of special areas of conservation. And for monitoring those areas, it is generally used the general matrix of conservation status, which is typically done by using techniques as, for example, photo interpretation and also fieldwork campaigns, which are costly and labor-intensive, but provide us information about, for example, the tree cover or the species composition, the accumulation of dead wood, etc. But we are currently in a quest to monitor these special areas of conservation under a reasonable cost and temporal frequency at different scales, from the stand to the landscape or even regional scales. And we might need to find alternative approaches that might use, for example, remote sensing tools to allow to create reasonable cost approaches. And in this sense, the aim of this work is to assess the potential of LiDAR data to classify the conservation status in Quercus vaginea, Quercus pyrenaica, and Quercus robur habitats. So the study area is located in the Navarra Autonomous Community in the northern part of Spain, and we have selected 4 different zones. Zone A, which includes Quercus pyrenaica forest located in the special area of conservation Belate. Then in Zone B, we have the oak hornbeam forest managed by the Ulsama and Basabrua Valley plants. And the Zone C and D includes Quercus vaginea forest located within the Sierra de Lotquit and Montes de Valdorba. All of them are areas under conservation. So now I'm going to present how we have managed with the methodology. So the first step was to do the data source organization and processing. So we have as fieldwork qualitative information about the conservation status, which was provided by GANIC. And this information provides us information about 3 different categories of conservation status: unfavorable, bad, unfavorable, inappropriate, and favorable. Then we process the single photon LiDAR and we compute different metrics, some of which are traditional metrics that are computed with LiDAR, as for example, the percentiles of the return height, the canopy height metrics, the canopy variability, and canopy density metrics. But we also wanted to introduce some alternative metrics which are related with the structural diversity indices, as for example, the LiDAR height diversity index, which is a translation of the Shannon diversity index, and the LiDAR height Evness index, which is based on the Pelous index. After processing the data, we need to define the sample, and to capture the variability of the forest under study, we use a stratified random sampling based on canopy cover, slope, canopy height, and conservation status. So we create a sample of 2,450 points to further develop the classification. The third methodological step that we wanted to cover was to analyze the suitability of LiDAR metrics to conservation status discrimination. And for that, we did a double approach one focus on a statistical test, as for example Kruskal-Wallis, and after that the Dunn test, but also we wanted to analyze the ecological significance of those metrics. And the last step was to perform the classification, and for that we compared two different machine learning algorithms, and we validate the classification. Here I present the main results related to the suitability assessment of LiDAR metrics to conservation status discrimination. As we can see, the canopy cover and the two diversity indices derived from LiDAR provide us the highest Kruskal-Wallis values, and also those metrics were statistically significant between the different categories in all our three habitats. Furthermore, those metrics have an ecological significance. The canopy cover measured by LiDAR is related with the cover. Then we have the two diversity indices derived from LiDAR, which are related with the strata diversity and provide us also information, for example, about the cavities for living birds, between others. But also we wanted to include other variables that even some of them are not significant in one of our habitats. Those still have an ecological significance. And for that, we consider the total percentage of returns about mean, which provide us information about the higher and probably the older trees. Then we added the 95 percentile of height, which is a common metric used for the structure and age. And the last one was the coefficient of variation, which provide us information about the trees with different heights, and subsequently we can analyze the variety of ages. The Dunn test also showed the same patterns as with the Kruskal-Wallis, so we selected these 6 metrics for further analysis. Here we can clearly see that the higher or the more favorable the conservation status, which is so in green, the higher is the value of the two LiDAR diversity indices, and also the higher is the canopy cover, which implies that forests with higher canopy cover and also with higher strata diversity were measured in the field with a higher conservation level. After that, we pass to the last part, which is the classification, and we get nice results using a random forest with an accuracy ranging from 75% for Quercus pyrenaica forest up to 88% for Quercus fagineal forest. So the main conclusions of this work is that the selected LiDAR metrics provide direct or indirect information to be able to classify the conservation status in oak groves forest, and the classification results indicate that single photon LiDAR constitute an efficient alternative to classify and to map conservation status at different scales, from the stand to landscape or even to regional scales. So this is something that maybe it's helpful for forest managers. And even this work is under review. Further research should be done in this field related with analyzing different types of forests, as for example, mixed forests, as well as including different types of remote sensing information derived from these tools. So thank you very much, and yeah, thank you.